Everybody, thank you for being here today on Coffee Talk, ADIKA Live. Got a crazy story here. Today we have author Caitlin Roth is coming on here to talk about her new book, Death on Ocean Boulevard.
It's Coffee Talk with ADIKA. Nothing rhymes with that but chicken tikka. We name drop here with Stephen and all his friends.
It's a crazy story. It's something you'd hear from Columbo, an episode of Columbo. It really is. And before we get into that and all that good stuff, everybody, please, right below Caitlin, please subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when we have great shows like this coming on. Look, it all started on July 11th, and it's crazy because that's my birthday. So,
wow.
yes, and I've been going in deep on this. But it's a pharmaceutical millionaire, sold the company, made all this money, millionaire, young, hot girlfriend, healthy kids, right? He has a young little boy, 6-year-old. The kid, it starts on July 11th. It fell from the stairs. He passes away eventually. His girlfriend passes away eventually. What the heck is going on here?
Well, okay. So first of all, there's still some debate in some quarters on what happened to this little boy. So nobody actually saw what happened.
Yeah.
But Rebecca Zahau, who is the young, beautiful girlfriend of Jonah Shacknai, who owns this mansion. It's a historic landmark here in San Diego County. It's the Spreckels Mansion. And it was built by John D. Spreckels, the sugar fortune guy, back in 1908. And so it's not like a mansion that you would think of in Hollywood, which is, super flashy and beautiful. It's a historic home, meaning it's old. So it's of significant, historic, for us here, it's significant.
Yeah.
So little boy Max was on the second, what we think happened is he was on the second floor. It's the railing, and there's this elaborate, there you go, thank you. So they don't know because nobody saw it, that he was someplace, he was up there. You see that chandelier?
Mm-hmm.
So Rebecca was in the downstairs bathroom right off the foyer at the bottom of the stairs when she said she heard a crash. And the dog was barking like crazy. So she came out, and that chandelier that was hanging there was now on the floor in pieces. And right near Max, the little boy, there was broken glass everywhere. The dog was barking. Max had a razor scooter, those little things that kids like to play on, was lying across one of his legs, and a soccer ball was nearby. So that's a lot of pieces that anything could have happened. So nobody saw it. But what the sheriff's department thinks is that somehow he was playing up there. Maybe the ball was involved, the scooter, the dog somehow ended up going over that railing, grabbing a hold of the chandelier, swinging on it, and it broke and he fell. So, but nobody saw it.
Nobody saw it, huh? Okay.
Saw it. So when everybody's asking Rebecca what happened, she says, I don't know what happened. I didn't see it. I it seems like he fell from up there near the bedroom. So anyway, her boyfriend Jonah's, obviously the little boy, as she came out, he wasn't breathing. His heart wasn't beating. And so she calls to her 13-year-old sister who is visiting, call 911. So there's a 911 call, and you can hear Rebecca shouting out instructions to the girl and to the dispatcher. But she tells Jonah that she's been doing CPR. So when Jonah rushes home, once the paramedics have arrived, Rebecca calls him and lets him hear what's going on the cell phone without saying anything. So he realizes he needs to get home. He runs home. And they're loading his little boy into the ambulance. And so he drives off to the hospital. So here we are, the little boy is in intensive care. They did get his heart beating again. It took about 25 or 30 minutes so that he was down. But because Rebecca said that she had been giving him CPR, they thought he had a chance to survive. So here we are. Mom ends up coming to the hospital. They have to transfer him to yet another hospital, a children's hospital. Dina, who is the mom, as Jonah's second wife, his ex-wife, they're all at the hospital, and Jonah says to Rebecca, "You can't be here because it'll upset Dina." So here's Rebecca, who's been taking care of this little boy. She was the only adult in the house, and now she can't go see him. She's not allowed to go see him because it's going to cause a scene, because Dina and she don't get along, and Dina has a lot of issues with Rebecca for various reasons.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dina's sister comes into town, and Rebecca's basically going back and forth to the hospital and the airport. She's ferrying everybody around. That's how she's helping. She ends up deciding she's going to send her sister back to Missouri, though, with the rest of her family, because this is no place for this little girl. She came for vacation, and a little boy's in the hospital. Rebecca's busy. Rebecca puts the dog, it's a Weimaraner, that had been barking, big dog, like big enough apparently to knock an adult over. So that's partly, we don't know what happened. So she takes her sister back to the airport the next day, and she picks up Jonah's brother, Adam, who's flown in from Memphis. He's a tugboat captain. So these are all the players. That night, the first night they're all at the hospital. Meanwhile, she's getting everybody to come in. Adam comes in the next day. Little sister's gone back. So everybody's there. And Jonah and Adam and Rebecca go to dinner. Then Rebecca brings Jonah back to the hospital, gives him a really long hug, and then leaves and takes Adam back to the mansion. So now this is where all the debate, this is what the debate's about, because we don't know what happened that night. So according to Adam, he said, we said goodbye in the courtyard because he's going to go stay in the guest house. So this is a property that is, you've got a main house with 4 stories. You've got a caretaker's cottage, you've got a guest house. And then there's a courtyard in the middle with grass. And that's the front of the house. So there's a driveway if you're facing the house to the left of the house, there's a driveway that goes back to the rear, the rear. Okay. So that's where they say goodbye, he says. And he went into the guest house, had a Diet 7-Up, called his girlfriend Mary back in Memphis, took an Ambien and went to sleep. And when he woke up the next morning, he came out to go see if Rebecca wanted to get some coffee. So he's heading over to the main house. When he sees this thing out of the corner of his eye, he thinks it's a mannequin or something that maybe the kids, because in addition to Max, Jonah also has 2 teenage kids who were there and then had just flown out to be with their mom. So they weren't there when this happened, but he thought, the kids, maybe they did something. Turns out it's not a mannequin, it's Rebecca. Rebecca is hanging from the 2nd floor exterior balcony in the courtyard. It's a red rope, and she's naked. So she's naked. Her hands are bound behind her back. Her ankles are bound together. And she's got a T-shirt that's wrapped around her neck and into her mouth, like a gag, on top of the rope, which is on top of her hair. Okay, now that's important. For a lot of women say, if you're a woman, you're going to pull it out. You don't have something around here because it's weird. It's like a reflex.
Uncomfortable, just a natural.
Right. So that's what Adam says. Now, Adam says, okay, he's not sure if she's dead or not. He's going to try to save her. So he goes into the kitchen and he grabs a knife. He calls 911. And then you hear him on the 911 tape pulling this table over. And it goes boom, 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 because there's a leg that's broken. So it's a 3-legged table, and it's a wooden table. So it's an old, dilapidated kind of thing that's sitting in the sun. He stands on top of it with the knife, takes a hold of Rebecca, cuts her down, holds onto her, takes her down, and puts her down on the grass in the courtyard. Now remember, her hands are behind her back, her ankles are tied, and her knees are bent. And as she's lying on the ground, and she's kind of turned, it's kind of a contorted position. And he tells the dispatcher that he's doing compressions, which is difficult to picture if you see her body, how she was positioned. So anyway, so when the police and the paramedics get there, They touch her jaw, and it's cool to the touch. And there's rigor mortis that started setting in, which means she's been dead for at least a couple hours. And so basically, they don't see her hanging. He's cut her down, and you can hear him grunting and cussing and what have you on the 911 tape. So that's the deal. And he says, well, on the 911 tape, you hear him say, I got a girl hung herself in the guest house. So right away, you're thinking, okay, first of all, he says she was hanging from the exterior balcony. He was the one in the guest house. So that's right away something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a little fishy. And he also says same place where the boy was. Is that correct? Like he's like very
right.
loose.
So what he's trying to say is to the paramedics, you know, the little boy, you guys were just here 2 days ago to take care of, you know, his nephew. So he's always saying the girl, the boy, you know,
kind of cold. Kind of
doesn't mention Rebecca's name, doesn't mention that it's his boyfriend's girlfriend on the 911 tape. So, and he's talking to her. He's like, what did you do? And, you know, are you alive? And
on the tape, you could hear that.
You can hear all that on the tape.
Interesting. So you hear all the rumblings. Here's the weird thing. The police, the investigation, they kind of botched it.
Well, I'm not taking a position on whether I think it was murder or suicide.
I looked at a lot of different things here. Now, it's a crazy story. You have this rich, and just I'm taking it from me. This millionaire.
That's fine. I just want to be able to say on air, on whatever, that I'm not taking.
It's just a conversation. That's what it's called.
Yeah, no, I know. But I mean, I've done that on every single program because I need people to know that I'm not taking a position.
All right.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just
everybody to make it clear she's not arguing. But what I think is, just to make it clear, everybody, she's not arguing. Now, what I think really clear out the gate. Here's a weird thing. If you're Columbo, you notice that the father is never at the crime. Never there. I'm just saying. Okay. Never there. That's number one. That's a logical thing to make you want to question, don't you think? That's the first thing I would think. Number two, this lady, his girlfriend who passed away, she came from this Asian culture she was very just. There's a lot of missing links. They're very proper. The way she was found, tied, bounded, completely nude. Now, the cops, when I say botched up, they left her body. They didn't cover it up where anybody could take pictures of it, which there's pictures on the internet of her nude body laying in the grass after he cut it down.
They're pixelated though, aren't they?
But still, they botched it up. That you can't say they didn't. They totally didn't. They didn't. There's a footprint on the scene of the crime.
There are definitely people who say that the investigation was flawed. Absolutely. And one of the things that bothers the family and would bother most people is that they left her uncovered.
They left her uncovered
in the sun, and which degrades DNA. So that the knife that Adam used to cut her down was also left in the sun. And so guess what? They didn't find his DNA anywhere on the scene up in the bedroom where her hanging rope was anchored to the bed, but they also didn't find it on the knife that we know he touched because, maybe because they left it in the sun all day. So that's what they said at the trial.
A lot of maybes.
Yep. Because the house are saying, well, only Rebecca's DNA was found in that bedroom. Well, then it must have been wiped down because there are at least 12 spots that their experts said they should have found DNA that they didn't find any DNA.
And now with the little boy, when it started on July 11th, when he fell down the stairs or over the rail, whatever you want to call it, the glass, he whispered to Ocean.
Well, that's what Rebecca claims, but the doctors and other experts have said that based on his injuries, it would have been impossible for him to say anything because his heart had stopped and his breathing had stopped.
He didn't die on the spot. He passed away a couple of days later.
Of his head injuries, yes.
Of the head injuries, right? So at that point, the mother, was she with the little boy when he passed away in the hospital? The mother of the child?
I believe so. I mean, he was attached to the machines. They donated his organs too. And so what they do is they leave the person attached to all of the machines to clean their blood, make sure, because he had a bunch of medications that they try to give him to resuscitate him, and so they keep him attached to the machines until they're ready to do the organ procurement.
I mean, okay, so the boy, it was such a weird accent. Now, the sister of Rebecca came and she wanted to know. I know she was questioning, like, what happened, but Rebecca wouldn't answer very clear about what happened to the boy.
Right. Rebecca picked her up at the airport, and Nina was trying to get an answer out of her, and so was Jonah. So were other people, friends of Jonah's and his brother rather. And she just kept saying, "I don't know. I didn't see it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." So Nina, the sister of the mom, called up Rebecca on the cell phone. This is the night before she was found, and said, "I want to talk to you." And she didn't answer. So she basically walked over to the house. So there's a second house. Jonah owned, I don't know, like 3 houses in Coronado. One of them he bought for his friend Howard, his best friend, who also was there, flew right out. And then also had another house that he had bought. And so that's what Dina was living in. And so they split custody of Max, 50-50. And so Nina was staying at that house. So she walked over. It's only 5 minutes. She walked over to the house. And this is what she says. And she came to the front door. And it was dark and she didn't see anybody. So she went around the back. Now, the thing is that there was a witness. So there was a guy riding his bike by at the time that he saw a woman at the front door, except when he heard about this the next day, he heard all this commotion. He rode his bike back over there and saw, oh, looks like a crime scene. They had the crime tape out, all that stuff. So he told the detectives what he had seen. And he had looked on online or something like that and saw a picture of Dina. So Dina and Nina are fraternal twins. So they have similar builds, but they have completely different color hair. He was convinced that it was Dina at the front door because she had dark brown hair and Nina had lighter reddish, or, not black, not dark brown hair at all. So he was convinced that it was Dina. So there's a house when they filed a civil suit against, as saying, these guys murdered Rebecca. They were convinced that she was murdered, that she would never have committed suicide, because that's what the sheriffs decided after a 7-week investigation, that she had committed suicide. Because she felt guilty about what happened to Max. Maybe she was responsible somehow. Maybe she wasn't telling the truth about how he fell. Maybe she was playing with him. Something went wrong. Who knows? That they didn't know what happened. They just figured, based on some notes that were left that she had written to herself on the phone, kind of like you're angry, you write a letter, you don't send it. There was one of those to Jonah. And there was another thing on there that she was angry. She was depressed. She sounded very troubled and upset about things. And Jonah said that at 10 minutes to 1 a.m. that morning, so she was found by Adam. Adam called 911 at 6:48. So just before 1 a.m., Jonah called her and left a voicemail. Now that's on the phone records, and they do have video surveillance of him going. You'd mentioned the father's never at the scene. Yeah. Well, they have video of him at the hospital going in and out, and they do have his phone records. So he did make this voicemail call. And what he claims is that he said to Rebecca, best case scenario is Max will never walk or talk again. And unfortunately, that voicemail was deleted and the authorities were never able to retrieve it. So all we have is Jonah's word for what he said. We know he made the call. We know there was a voicemail, but no one's ever heard it. So the Zahaus don't believe him. Yeah. And,
what kind of person was Jonah? From doing this investigation on the book yourself, what did you find out about him?
Well, I had pretty much written the entire book and I was editing it. When I finally was able to speak with him, he emailed me, and I guess it just took a while to get messages to him that I had been trying to reach him. I wanted to interview him. So we ended up doing 8 interviews, about 2 hours each on Skype because we were in the lockdown. Yeah. And I got a whole much bigger, broader perspective than I had had before, because, the Zahaus had put out their statements about who Rebecca was. There were friends of hers. She went to Bible college. They're a very religious family.
Yeah.
They all said this is not something that she would have done. It goes against her religion. It goes against our beliefs. She was a modest person. She never said she felt guilty. She never said she felt responsible. She never seemed depressed to us. She was happy. She was strong. But talking to Jonah, and also I had the entire sheriff's investigative file. So I know what the sheriffs based their suicide findings on. Jonah initially thought that she did not commit suicide, because he said she was such a considerate person. This just didn't seem like the kind of thing she would have done to me, the way it would have reflected on me. And also, I was in the ICU with my son. Why would she do that when I was, needed her support? She was my support system. But now he thinks she definitely did commit suicide. So we talked a lot about that, and about what she was like, and that they were having a lot of problems in their relationship. And in his mind, there was so much conflict between her and his ex-wives and his teenage children, too much conflict for him. He said if things hadn't changed, which he didn't think they probably were, it was only a couple more months till the end of the summer, that they would have broken up.
They would have broken up. Yeah.
So they were in the process. They were having a lot of problems in the relationship. So anyway, that helped me to understand him, and helps the reader to understand the dynamics of the relationship, the dynamics of what Rebecca was going through at the time.
Now you think, here you have a millionaire, and this man has all the money and power. And when he saw about his son falling, that, hey, there's a lot of what the heck? Like, I would just say, this is me talking, what the hell's going on? I would want to maybe hire somebody, get better details, like, because this happened in my house. He did.
He hired investigators and to re-examine what happened to Max, and so did Dina. So what Dina's experts came up with is that he did not fall accidentally, that this was he did not die at his own hand. And she blamed Rebecca.
Okay.
So I guess she's backed off from that since. But for quite some time, she did blame Rebecca. She went on Dr. Phil, and she wanted the Coronado Police Department to reopen his case as a homicide, because she thought Rebecca was murdered too. Well, and not by Adam.
No, not by Adam. Now, when you talk, okay, because right here, this was written on the wall, supposedly from her, correct?
If you believe it's suicide, she wrote it. If you believe it was murder, then the killer wrote it. So think about it, though. She saved him. Can you save her? Yeah. She saved him. So the Zahaus say that means Rebecca gave CPR to Max and quote unquote saved him. Yeah. Right. Can you save her? They think that's the killer, and it's written in the third person. Yeah, why would somebody who's writing a suicide note write it in the third person? Yeah, and it looks pretty angry. See, the writing seems.
Yeah.
So they think, and some outside experts too, they say, look, it's a taunting message. It's the way it's written is angry. The way her body was left was humiliating, and it just doesn't. For a lot of people, they think that this was a murder, not a suicide.
It doesn't add up. It doesn't add. There's some shenanigans there. Their relationship is falling apart. Some people, maybe it was an affair, a jealous lover, but there's so much. There's so much going on here.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories and hitmen and maybe there were two hitmen, different reasons, maybe one hitman for both. And the sheriffs say that Max's fall was a tragic accident.
What does the sheriff say about this? Did he jump and try to grab on the chandelier and play?
Okay, do you see that descending rail? There's a diagonal line going down. Okay, so that's the balcony railing as it's going down the stairs. The sheriff told me that he thinks that the boy went over that side, not the top, because he said, and that's lower. Now, to me, if you had a different view of the railing looking up, I don't think that railing is any lower than the top, but I haven't been there. So, but the sheriffs seem to think that descending railing is actually not as tall, because the experts that Dina hired said, well, that top balcony railing, his center of gravity, even if he were standing on the scooter, is still too high for him to have had the ability to go over the top of it like that. And how would he have lunged for that chandelier? Also, there's a woman who was at the scene, a psychologist who was riding along with the cops who showed up right after, and it described the cord of the chandelier as severed. And that's always kind of been curious to me.
That is a little strange, huh? A little strange right there. So
lots of questions.
A lot of questions. Dude, what about the house today? Does he still own it, or did he?
No, he sold the house to somebody. It's changed hands a number of times, and then it wouldn't sell for quite some time, and it finally did sell. I think back in December.
Wow.
Sometime last year. Finally, it had been on the market for several years. So, because they call it, some people in Coronado call it the murder house.
Well, yeah.
Who wants to live in the murder house?
Who wants to live in the murder house? Well, your book is going to get an autographed copy if they go right here to your website. How are you doing this now?
There are 2 places here in San Diego County that I've got selling books that I've signed. One, and you can find them both if you go to my website that you've got right there. Go to my blog. There's a virtual tour calendar, and it has links for all of the places to order books, to watch other interviews, to learn more, and for other events if you wanted to come and ask questions.
Yeah, excellent. That's the website right there. Caitlin Roth, I appreciate you coming here. The book is out now, and any question right here is the book, Death on Ocean Boulevard. No, thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate your interest in the book.
I'm very interested in the book, and you know what? I got to get an autographed copy from you. That's what I want. But there's a lot of stories. I didn't want to put you on the spot. I'm still in my sister. Do you think there's a chance that the case can be reopened?
Well, here's the deal. The sheriff's department has had a chance to reopen it. There was a civil jury that said they thought Adam was responsible for Rebecca's death. And right after that, the sheriff came out and said, I'm standing by the suicide finding. But his opponent in the race for re-election said, if I'm elected, I'm going to reopen this case as a criminal case. So if he runs again and, this guy beats him in the next race, or if Sheriff Gord doesn't run again, the next sheriff could make a decision to reopen this criminal case. At this point, the Zahaus have now filed another lawsuit, this time against the sheriff's department because of the investigation, and they want more records to see if maybe they were holding things back, if they had any bias that, they can prove, that they went to the murder theory. They went to the suicide theory right away and didn't really investigate properly. They're still trying to get those records, so we'll see what happens with that as well.
Yeah, well, I vote they reopen this up. I'm just a little boy involved. You got the lady involved. It's just too much. There's too much shenanigans involved here. But Caitlin, thank you very much for being here. I know you're busy. There's the book, Death on Ocean Boulevard. Caitlin, thanks for your time.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
See you later.
Right.
Okay, I'll let you go. Bye, Caitlin. Bye. Caitlin Rother right here in the studio. I don't know. I have a lot of questions, you guys. Debbie, great show. Get the wheels turned. Yeah. Hey, I think it was a great show. Back to work. Get back to work, Debbie. Donnell, thank you for being here. Baby. That's right. Who loves you, baby? We do. You know what? Don't get me started.
It's coffee talk with the Tika. Nothing rhymes with that but chicken tikka. We name drop here. We're Stephen and all his friends.
Stop. Hey, for other great episodes, you know what to do. You're going to go click here. You're going to click there. You're going to click there. Maybe share it. Tell somebody that you know me. I'm not so bad. But always remember, if you have not, to subscribe. Hit that bell to be notified when we come on. I'm getting a little too good at these intros and outros. So I got to keep it rock and roll and real. But I love you all. Thank you very much for sharing, for your support, just for you being you. See you all later. Mwah. Goodbye. You guys got me right there. I'm just reading my friend's. Oh, Susan, you're here too. I just happen to be reading your book. I want to show everybody out there in the world. Please, everybody, please check it out. I will put all the good descriptions right there. But that's our friend Susan. Remember, subscribe, share, love one another, and always be steepling. Right, Dr. G? Always steeple, huh, Dr. G? That's right. Bye, everybody.